I've got a very special guest for you guys today, and his name is John Assaraf. John is a behavioral and mindset expert, brain researcher, and he uses the latest in brain science to help people achieve more than they ever have before in all areas of life. And he teaches people how to overcome and release the mental and emotional obstacles that prevent them from achieving everything that they want. He is also a serial entrepreneur and CEO of NeuroGym. He's also grown 5 multi-million-dollar companies in real estate, internet software, brain research, and life and business coaching and consulting. He's the author of 2 New York Times best-selling books, and he has a new book out called Innercise. Get it? Like exercise, but Innercise. I love it. And it's all about the new science that will really help you unlock your brain's hidden power. I'll put the link in the show notes. You guys got to check it out. I'm super excited to read it. John has also made frequent appearances on Larry King Live and has been featured in 8 films, including the blockbuster smash hit The Secret, and Quest for Success with Richard Branson and the Dalai Lama. He is one of the leading behavioral and mindset experts in the world. I am so excited for you guys to meet him. You're going to learn a ton in this episode. Without further ado, let's get right into it. Let's meet John Assaraf. John, I am so jazzed to be sitting here with you today. I honestly love the way that you talk about mindset, human behavior, and the brain. You bring this really scientific approach to it. And I'm like so excited to just nerd out with you right now.
Let's nerd out.
Yes. Awesome. So before we dive into all that juicy goodness, I would love to hear how you got started on this path. Like where did that start for you? Can you share that journey with us?
Yeah, it's really interesting. A lot of times out of our greatest pains or messes, the greatest lessons come out of that. And when I was in my early 20s, so 35 plus years ago, I was working really hard to make a lot of money. So I wanted to make, $50,000 and $100,000 and $250,000. And I worked a lot, partied a lot, worked a lot, stressed myself out a lot, which people are probably going, yeah, so what's unusual about that? And the answer is nothing, except I ended up with severe ulcerative colitis. So I ended up with ulcers in my colon that caused inflammation in my colon. And to make a very long, drawn-out story very short, I had 0 bowel control abilities, no control. So if I had to go and have a shit, it would happen like right now.
Wow.
Not 2 seconds to think about it. It's like, oh no, and you just explode. So obviously I went to see doctors when it happened, more than one time.
Yeah.
And they said, you've got ulcerative colitis. And they didn't know what causes it, but the treatments for it at the time were 25 pills a day, 5 pills 5 times a day, silazepam pills. 2, they're called betamethasone enemas or cortisone enemas inserted rectally. And then every month I had to go to the hospital to do something called a sigmoidoscopy, which is where they stuck a tube that the doctor could look into your rectum and into your colon, 20, 30 inches in. So no bowel control movement, lots of pain. Didn't want to eat because, danger.
Mm-hmm.
And I was watching a TV show. And I saw these doctors talking about this thing back then, and this was 1983, on psychoneuroimmunology. It's like, what the fuck is that? Right? And psychoneuroimmunology is just the mind-body connection. And they said, listen, your body is controlling some of your mind, and your mind's controlling some of your body. And if you have a disease, you're in a state of dis-ease. And so the question is, could you put your body in a state of at ease? And then they said that, if you meditate and visualize and do positive affirmations, and eat well and take care of your internal, external environment, you create this at ease environment. So I said, geez, I'm in enough pain with what I'm going through at 22 years old. I'm going to try it. So I wrote out this affirmation. My body and all its organs were created by the infinite intelligence in my subconscious mind. It created all my bones, tissues, muscles, and organs, and it knows how to heal me. Wonderful are the creative forces that are already present within me. I am now perfectly healthy.
Wow.
And I read that every day, and then I recorded it and listened to it, and then I meditated on it, then I visualized it. And I had had ulcerative colitis and this disease for 2 years. And I finally did something other than medically induced stuff. 5 weeks later, 0 symptoms.
What?
Gone. I'll be 58 this year. So that's 35 years ago I had this disease. And
Wow.
so you asked the question, how did I get into this? I got into it because I was in so much freaking pain and embarrassment and shame and and judgment and uncertainty. And so that was my first entry point into what is this thing that I have between my ears inside my skull called a brain? How powerful is it really? What else do I not know about it that could help me? So if I could, control some of what was happening within my body, the vibration that my cells were exchanging information between them, whether in the state of dis-ease or at ease. I learned, we had 11 systems that either they're working synergistically together in coherence or they're in chaos. And so I just got fascinated with, holy shit, like I've got the most powerful tool in the known universe, and I have 0 of the operator's manual, of the working manual. And so I just,
Which is so many of us.
yeah, so I wanted to get like, what else do we know about the brain? So I started my journey of understanding a little bit about the human brain back in 1982.
Wow. I love that you just shared that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I also, so I was diagnosed with severe anxiety disorder when this was in my late college years. And I was taking medication every day for 2 years.
Yeah.
And once I, similar story, but different, I started working on my mind and really learning about what my blocks were, what was holding me back. Honestly, I've no more panic attacks.
That's great.
No more, it's incredible.
Yeah.
Completely medication free. Haven't taken a pill in over 3 years now.
I love it.
So I believe in the power. Yes.
Well, it's interesting, you just reminded me of something that I learned that I think people will benefit from is an anxiety attack, stress, panic, ulcerative colitis. All of these things are effects, right? So they're effects. So the question is, what's the cause?
Yes.
Right? So most people are focusing on either, suppressing the effects, depressing the effects, masking the effects. They're doing everything but going, what's causing this?
Yep.
And if we look at the world of cause, whether it's in our physical body, whether it's our relationship, whether it's our bank account, whether it's our business, whatever the result is, every result in the physical world is an effect. So the question is, what causes the results? And one of the greatest laws in the universe is the law of cause and effect. And it states that for every effect, there's a cause, and for every cause, there's an effect. And so I got really inquisitive and curious early on with, can I control more of the cause of my results? And that required responsibility. And when I was younger, it was like I was more into the blame game. It's because of him, because of her, because of it, because of the market, because of where I live, because of my mother, my father, how old I am or how young I am, how Asian or Caucasian I am. It doesn't make a difference.
Yep.
So a lot of my upbringing caused me to look outside of myself. And when I looked inside myself and took the prerequisite of responsibility, I own it.
Yes.
And I can change it.
So important.
That transformed my life. That, that really started to put things into perspective.
Yes. Oh, that's so good. And I feel like in order to do that, we're really, and this is why a lot of people don't, we're needing to face our fears, which always seem a lot uglier from a distance. And I know you talk about that a lot. You talk about transforming fear into fuel. Mm-hmm. I would love if you could share that with us.
So when we talk about the word fear, right? So let me start off with another little premise here is most people are highly ignorant in understanding what fear is. Now, I want to make sure people heard me correctly. Ignorance doesn't mean you are stupid. Ignorance means you just don't know. We're all ignorant.
Mm-hmm. We don't know what we don't know.
Well, we don't know what we don't know, and even the things that we do know may not be accurate. Mm-hmm. So when we talk about fear, there are 50 different types of fear. All fear is processed in the subconscious mind. The automatic neurochemistry that is created as a result of the meaning that we give certain things that cause us to either be in a state of fear or a state of courageousness is all being processed in our subconscious mind. Mm-hmm. So what causes fear for you doesn't cause fear for me or for somebody else, or may cause fear in other people. So whether, we're standing at the, top of a building that's 100 stories high, some people look over and don't have fear, and other people do have fear. Yeah. Whether there's a giant 10-foot boa constrictor, in front of you may cause fear in you, that doesn't cause fear in another person. Mm-hmm. So it's never the thing that is causing the fear. It's the subconscious interpretation that we've been conditioned to believe. The meaning that we learn to give something determines whether the neurochemistry of fear is activated that causes us to feel a certain way. So the feeling, of being scared, the feeling of being uncertain, this feeling of having self-doubt, the feeling of having too much stress in our life, that is an effect, not a cause. Mm-hmm. So feelings are conscious, our ability to be aware of this stuff that's going on in our body that we either know or don't know how to handle or do anything with. Yeah. So feeling is conscious. Fear is subconscious. And so if, for example, we have, one of the examples I use is, and you don't have this, obviously, but if I ask 100 people, do you have a fear of public speaking?
I was just going to say that. I was just going to say that.
I'm reading your mind. I'm reading your mind. Well, it's not your fear. And that's what I'm going to say. Mm-hmm. So the actual fear is of being embarrassed, ashamed, ridiculed, or judged. Mm-hmm. So if we're afraid of being embarrassed, ashamed, ridiculed, or judged, that has nothing to do with the actual public speaking. It has to do with our self-image and self-esteem and what we think of ourselves and what we believe others will say or think about us, which will affect our own self-image or self-esteem. Yeah. So fear is triggered based on subconscious patterns and feelings of certainty about something that may or may not be right. Mm-hmm. And so I never treat, if you like animals and you like fish, for example, if the fish is sick, you never treat the fish, you treat the water.
Yeah, ooh, that's good. I like that one.
Right, you treat the water.
Yeah.
Because it's the water that's causing the fish to be sick. Mm. And so whenever we're dealing with fear is a signal. So if we're driving our car together, okay, we're driving down the street, and all of a sudden there's a light that pops up on your dash. You don't go, oh my God, the fucking light came on. No, it's a signal. There's either something, maybe the trunk opened, maybe you're low on air, maybe there's a leak in your oil, maybe your coolant in your engine needs topping up. The light is just a signal that something in the engine is going on. So when we have this emotion that's triggered, okay, at the subconscious level, that gives us this feeling that we don't like or we don't know how to deal with, the light goes on, okay, in our brain.
We start experiencing those emotions,
We start
those
experiencing
feelings.
those emotions. And so when we get into, so why is that relevant? And it's relevant because the number one priority of the brain, above all else, okay, above sex, above eating, above all else, is survival and safety first. So when that fear signal is activated in the brain, your brake goes on, your motivation stops, your thinking brain deactivates, and you're either going to fight it, you're going to freeze, you're going to run away, or you're going to faint. Those are the 4 F's of fear, of what happens when that response happens. And to the untrained person, it controls them. To the trained person, like a Navy SEAL, like a firefighter has to learn how to feel fear and go into a burning building. Like an astronaut, she has to learn how to step out of the space station and go work with a robotic arm, knowing that she might be blown away into space. She has fears as well. He has fears as well. And so fear is just a signal. It's not a stop sign. It's not a go sign. It's a be aware sign.
Yep. And I feel also it's our relationships we've created with it. I mean, you said it yourself perfectly, is we're attaching a meaning to it. And like for me, I thought I was afraid of public speaking.
Right.
I thought that was, I would just say I'm a bad public speaker. That was my story. Well, you're absolutely right. What you said, that's what it was. I was afraid of judgment. I was afraid of rejection. And that was what was holding me back.
And these are subconscious patterns, right? So the feeling, okay, is this uncomfortable, just very uncomfortable. It's stressful. It creates anxiety. And so it's not the public speaking. So the question is, where did you learn to have this idea that speaking in public causes you to be embarrassed, ashamed, ridiculed, or judged? And here's what a lot of people will say if you ask them, like, where did that come from? They'll say, well, when I was a kid in class and, the teacher asked a question and I answered and the answer was wrong, the other kids made fun of me. Or the teacher said, no, that's not the right answer. And they were embarrassed and the other kids ridiculed them. So like, who the hell wants that? So if our brain is focusing on wiring, whatever keeps us safe and whatever keeps pain away, we avoid pain, or we'll do anything to avoid pain way before we do anything to gain pleasure. And so survival first, avoidance of pain second, before we gain pleasure. So if there's any real or imagined danger where we're going to be emotionally hurt, mentally hurt, physically hurt, financially hurt, our brain gives us this signal, be aware. This may be one of those times. It says, be aware, this may be one of those times. And so the cycle, the neural circuit, the cycle shouldn't stop there. But when people haven't been trained on, here are my 6 core emotions, here are my feelings that those emotions cause, and here's what to do. When this emotion is triggered, do this. When this emotion is triggered, do that.
Yep.
And what you want to do is learn when the emotion of fear is triggered, the neurochemistry is adrenaline, cortisol, epinephrine, norepinephrine. That's like this high anxiety rocket fuel within us. Now, in most people, it causes them to just stop, put on the brake. But how is it that a firefighter, okay, could see a building blowing up in front of them, a building crashing down, a raging fire, and yet she musters up the courage to use that fuel from fear and go in? It's because she's been trained.
Yep.
It's because she's been trained.
And I'm so excited to dive into this. Okay, because and that's why I love your whole NeuroGym, Brainathon, Innercise.
Right.
Oh,
that's why I wrote the book.
Yes. So good. I have it here.
Oh, good.
So honestly, this just jazzes me up because I talk about this a lot, where it's like, if we say we're not confident, like my natural state of being, I'm not a very confident person, right? And I want to become that. Like, I know I want to be confident. That would be a new muscle. I would need to flex certain spots, certain parts of me in order to allow that to be my natural come from. And I always say, it's like, you can go to like a workshop and get fired up and learn the things, but if you're not applying it and getting in aka gym, the NeuroGym, and flexing the muscle, you're not going to create sustainable change.
Right.
So, okay, let's go into the flexing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you're 100% right. So we know up until about 20 years ago, scientists believed that we were hardwired. So we were born, we had certain genetic propensities. You're like your mother, like your father, like your grandparents, and then you became a little bit like you as a combination of both of those and your experiences. Well, the science was wrong, right? We just have learned a lot more in the last 20 years than we've known in the last 480 since we began science. And so the science of neuroplasticity shows us that we're consistently creating new connections. But to leave it at that is not very useful. So the question is, like, so what, right? So what's a new connection? Like, what's the big deal? And think about this. What baby was ever born with any beliefs? None. What baby was born with any habits? None. What baby was born with any prejudices at all, or racist, ideas? None. What baby was born with any perspectives or paradigms or habits? None. And so what happens is a baby is born with about 100 billion cells. So think about 100 billion cells like you would 100 billion marbles. And every time, a lot of marbles. Yeah, so a lot of marbles, right? That's why you lose your marbles. So every time the baby heard something, saw something, felt something, experienced something, these marbles made connections in their brain. And that's called neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to create new connections. And it's doing that every second of every day. And by the time we're, 3-4 years old, we've gotten a lot of these neural connections, these beliefs and habits and perspectives from our caregivers, our parents, our brothers or sisters, how they treat us, how we feel. And so we develop these connections, from 0 to 3-4, the imprinting years, and then we have the modeling years where we're modeling our parents from, 2.5, 3 to 5, 6, 7, where we're dressing like them and trying to put on their makeup, which I did too. And so we're modeling now, and then we have our experiential years where we gain some of our own experiences, and we are creating these new connections in our brain that become our map of the world. Here's how the world works. White people are this, black people are that. When I put my finger in this socket, it feels really bad, so don't do it more than once. When I eat this, I like it, and when I see this, I laugh, and when I do this, it hurts. And so we develop this model of the world, and we develop our beliefs about money, about relationships, about career, about travel, about food. We develop all of this stuff, by the millions and millions and millions of connections every hour. And then it slows down after we're about 10 or 12 years old. So we have this map, this road map of reality. And based on our parents and caregivers and grandparents and teachers and television and whatever we experienced, some of that map is accurate, and some of that map is not. Some of those beliefs are accurate, some of them are not. Some of the habits we developed are constructive, and some are destructive. Right? But from a neuroscience perspective, they're nothing more than just connections between one marble or another. Now, here's the good news, great news actually. We can deliberately create our own connections now, because we know that this science of neuroplasticity says that if we take, let's say, an affirmation, I'm so happy and grateful that I am more and more confident each and every day. So it may not sound real initially when you say that, but that's because you've said it one time and the connection is weak. But if you said that 100 times or 500 times or 1,000 times, and then you felt it, and then you went out and did a couple little things to give you some confidence. Let's say you're shy, and you just went to, a coffee shop, and you just smiled at somebody and nodded to them. Didn't have to say a word, just smiled and nodded, and they smiled and nodded back, and you go, oh, wow, that didn't hurt. They didn't hurt me. They didn't say anything bad about me. They didn't embarrass me. They didn't try to shame me. They didn't try to make me feel guilty. And if you did that enough for a day, a week, a month, 3 months, all of a sudden you'd be innercising your self-confidence muscle. And the shyness starts to go away a little bit at first. And then it's like, wow, this isn't a dangerous place.
And I think what you said there is crucial. You said little things.
Yes,
And
it's important to do
versus
little
going in and trying to do something big, taking a huge bite.
Yeah.
And I know I've heard you talk about this before. Actually, can you talk about the importance of, if you are trying to create a new way of being, a new result that you haven't had yet in your life, taking it little chunks at a time, little steps?
So whenever we're looking to make changes, right, the only human that likes change is a wet baby, right? So if we go back to just a few moments ago, when we talked about what's the brain's hierarchy of how it works. Safety first, avoidance of pain, discomfort. So when we are thinking about change, the bigger the change, the bigger the bigger contrast the brain has to think about, and the more active it becomes in activating the fear signal.
Yeah.
So if we say, can I just take one little step towards being more confident? Can I take one little step about being more certain? Can I take one little step towards what I want? Can I do a little step? And most people go, yeah, I could do a little step. Let's start with that, right? Whenever we're looking to change a belief or a habit, one of the things that I teach in the book Innercise is the habit is more important than the intensity at first.
So important. Yes, I love
And
that.
so let's say you want to release weight and keep it off. Most people don't want to just lose weight and gain it back and lose weight and gain it off and lose weight and get it. It's like that's the yo-yo diet.
Wait,
right?
you just said, you said release?
Yes.
I love that. Okay, why'd you say release instead of lose weight?
Every pound is 3,500 calories of energy. So when we eat food, let's say I eat, half a pound of pasta, right? The pasta is broken down into energy that I can use as fuel in my body. So when I use that fuel, I am releasing the energy of the fat, the protein, the carbohydrates. So if we have a little bit too much weight on, I want to release it back to where it came from, back into the universe. And I don't want it to come back. I want somebody else who needs it to have it.
Yeah.
So that's part one. Part two is we are trained and wired to find whatever it is we lose.
Yeah.
So you say, I lost 10 pounds. I lost 15 pounds. Or your brain goes, good, let me go find it. And I'm going to get it back.
Hence the yo-yo.
Well, the yo-yo is not necessarily because of that. It's because of a fat set point in the brain, a couple other things. But when we think about, let's say 10 pounds of fat is 35,000 calories. And if I think, how do I use 35,000 calories more than I gain or more than I take in? And then I say, now how can I maintain, this new weight that I'm at? So losing weight is part one, or releasing weight is part one. Keeping it off is a whole other science of resetting some stuff in the brain. But I everything that I look at now comes from a perspective of what's happening in the brain. Like what's happening in the brain. We live in an era now where all of the how-to, every single how to lose weight or release weight and keep it off, how to make more money, how to invest it, how to manage it, how to put a woman or man on the moon, how do we colonize Mars, how do we know all the how to for health, wealth, relationships, career, business. We know all the how to. So if we know all the how to, why isn't everybody skinny, rich, and happy?
Yep. Why aren't we doing it?
Right. And that's where I come in. So there's only 5 things that hold people back. There's not 10 things. There's only 5 things that it can be.
Give it to me, John. What are the 5
So
things?
we already talked about one, and that is fear. So when we feel unsafe, mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, financially, we retreat back and motivation and behavior stops. We procrastinate. So that's number 1. Do you want to wait for the helicopter to go by? It's okay.
No, we're good.
Right. So fear is number 1. And so when we feel this emotion that comes up as this feeling, we're in self-preservation mode because we're in a safety and survival mode. Absolutely normal. but you can learn how to feel fear and do it anyway and use it as fuel. So fear is number one. Number two is limiting beliefs, which you and I talked about a little bit earlier. And so if we think about what is a limiting belief, like from a neuroscience perspective, when a neuroanatomist looks in your brain, right, they can't see, oh, here's the limiting belief pattern between here and here. But we do know that a limiting belief is nothing more than a neural network, a pattern in the brain. The marble's connected, right? And if they've connected and have been reinforced often enough and strongly enough, they become part of something known as the default mode network. We just default to that belief. Why? Because we have enough references to say this is true. This limiting belief that I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm too young, I'm too old, I'm too Asian or Caucasian. Somehow we have information and experiences that says this is real. So
we're operating from that automatically.
We're operating from that automatically. But what does that really mean? What it means is not only does it affect what we do or don't do, but it affects the lens by which we're seeing the world. We only see the world through the lens of our empowering beliefs or disempowering beliefs.
Yes.
So imagine if you had a lens, whether it's on your camera or on your glasses, and all of a sudden you put a coating on it to take out all the blue light. You're not going to see the world the same.
Yep.
All the blue light is gone. Well, limiting beliefs or empowering positive beliefs do the exact same thing. So we don't see things as they are, we see things as we are. So number two is limiting beliefs. And I always say that, limiting beliefs or even emotions, they're not positive or negative. They're either empowering us or disempowering us.
So true.
They're either constructive or destructive. And our job is to learn how to deactivate the disempowering or destructive ones in our brain and activate and reinforce new empowering ones in our brain.
Yes.
And that we just need to know a little bit of neuroscience of how to do that. And again, that's why I wrote Innercise.
Yes.
So fears, limiting beliefs, number two. Number three, self-image, self-worth, self-esteem. So let's say you have a goal, okay? Any goal, a financial goal, a travel goal, a net worth goal, have my own blog post or blog and have a tribe follow me goal. And that's your vision and your goal that you've consciously chosen. But then beneath the surface, you feel, am I really worthy of that? Am I really good enough? Am I really smart enough? Do I really deserve that? Anytime you have a vision or a goal that is positive and fun and amazing, but there is a subconscious negative or disempowering pattern like self-esteem, self-worth, or self-image, the negative disempowering pattern wins 98% of the time.
Wow.
So if you think about the positive vision and goal as being the positive, if we have the positive and the negative, we have chaos in the brain. And what we really want to create more of is coherence. So what's coherence? Well, imagine you, if everybody just think about going to your favorite band. Your favorite band's coming to town. All right. And you are so excited because you just love to hear them. But their drummer or their lead vocalist or their guitarist got sick a few days ago and they had to get somebody else to play, tonight when you're going to see them play. And they haven't had a chance to practice together. And this new band member is just not in tune with everybody else. There's going to be chaos. It's like, oh, he's off. The vocals are off, or the piano's off, or the guitar is off. It just doesn't sound right or feel right.
Then the whole thing's off.
It's off. So it's like the experience is like there's no harmony here, right? So when people's vision or goals are out of harmony with their subconscious self-esteem or fears or limiting beliefs, there's chaos and there's too much friction. And in the absence of friction, you have smooth. But when there's friction there, it's just not smooth. It's not in harmony.
Yeah.
So we've covered fears, limiting beliefs, self-esteem, and self-worth. Should I go on?
Yeah. And I'm also super anxious. So I'm like, okay, so then how do we rewire? How do we, approach these limiting beliefs, create new ones that are empowering versus disempowering? But I do want to hear, I want to complete this. What are the rest of them?
Yeah. And so number 4 is going to be lack of knowledge and skills. So lack of knowledge and skills. So when we don't have, let's say we have a goal, any goal, it doesn't make a difference, whether it's a relationship goal, money, charity, whatever it is, whenever we lack the knowledge or the skills, there's a part of us that has self-doubt. Self-doubt is what triggers fear.
Because we're worried we don't know enough.
Right. So if we don't know enough, if we don't have the knowledge or the skill, or we think we have to have this certain knowledge or skill that we don't have, or that we think we need, it's going to trigger self-doubt. Self-doubt triggers fear. Fear deactivates motivational centers in the brain and deactivates the thinking part of the brain and our imagination. It's circuits. It's all it is circuits turning on or off.
Yes.
And so in the absence of knowledge and skill of what to do about it, we default to not taking action because we're protecting ourselves.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And so all of these little mechanisms, these four key ones, cause us to trigger the procrastination circuit in the brain, the do not take action circuit in the brain.
Yes.
Right. And, guys or girls, when they're dating, if they feel uncertain, then they just stay there. Well, maybe he'll come and talk to me. Well, maybe she'll come and talk to me. And it just goes round and round and round and round.
Same with even starting a business. We'll just sit and
Well,
sit
of
and not
course.
start and not start.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's not because you don't want the benefits and the joy of having your own business. It's self-preservation because of the way we are genetically, biologically, neurologically, physiologically wired for millions of years.
Yeah.
And so the good news is we now know how these processes work in the brain. The bad news is there's not too many people other than me and a few other people that are teaching it in the world.
Yes.
And we should be teaching it starting in kindergarten.
I agree.
Right? And let's teach children emotions are not good or bad. They're just emotions.
Yes.
Feelings are not good or bad. They're just feelings.
What we do with
and
them.
Here are the skills of how to use them. They're tools.
Yes.
Right? And
So, okay, there's one thing, and I just remembered this. You were talking about I wrote it down. Brush and prime is something that you do.
Yeah.
So, like, for example, this is, I think, one of the ways that you can Innercise, right? That you can practice and be in flex. Can you share what you do there?
Sure.
Your brush and prime.
So there's something called cognitive priming, right? So what's cognitive priming? So think about this. When a baby is learning how to eat, okay, what does, mommy or daddy do? Mommy or daddy, takes the spoon and, she puts it in the jar. She pretends to eat it herself. And then she puts it into the baby's mouth. Open the mouth. And she puts it, and she does that to cue the baby's brain of what to do. So she pretends she's doing it herself. She gets the baby to do it. And through this repetition, a baby will learn spoon in the hand, in the jar, spoon has food on it, mommy's opening her mouth, she's bringing it to me, open my mouth, I put the food in my mouth, and, oh, this yummy thing feels so good, yum, 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 right? And mommy and daddy go, num, 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 so eat this food. And so if you think about what's actually happening, we're getting the motor cortex of her brain going. We're getting her taste buds going. At a certain point, we'll put the spoon in her mouth and put her hand in the jar so that she could do it for herself. So we're priming her through visual cues, through auditory cues, through taste cues, right? Through all of the different senses, we're priming her brain, and then we're reinforcing it day after day after day after day to create the neural network, the connections in the brain that if I want that yummy food in my mouth, I have to learn how to take the spoon in my hand, put it in the jar, get it all over the place initially until I could do it without spilling it all over the place.
Yes.
Well, that takes, weeks and months and years to tie your shoes, to learn how to eat, to learn how to brush your teeth.
All these things that are automatic now. Yes.
All the things that are automatic now. So before something's automatic, it's not.
Yeah, and it can feel really uncomfortable.
Right. So let's take a disempowering belief that you have. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm too young. I'm too old. I'm female. I'm male. Whatever it is, you have a disempowering belief. It's nothing more than a pattern in the brain. So somehow A pattern that wasn't there before got there, right? Who told you that? Your parents, your teachers, your brother, your sister, your best friend said, you'll never amount. Or like, who did that? It's really irrelevant. But if the pattern is there and it's a dominant pattern because you've believed it for 20, 30, 40 years, whatever the case might be, and it's been reinforced, what does brain science say about how do I get rid of it? And it says, well, you'll never get rid of it, but you can deactivate it.
Okay.
How do I deactivate
I like
it?
where this is going.
Right? How do I deactivate it? So every time I catch myself saying I'm not good enough, or fill in the blank, take any limiting belief. And anytime you catch yourself saying it or feeling it, what if you said to yourself, stop. In the past, I used to believe that, and now I believe I'm more than good enough. In the past, I used to feel like I'm too young, but now I can use my age as a benefit to achieve that goal. Any limiting belief, we can do one of a couple things. We can say, in the past, I used to. And so what we're doing is we're not saying, no, stop that. We're not reinforcing a limiting belief by trying to fight it. We acknowledge it's just a pattern.
Embracing it.
And just say, in the past, I used to believe that, and now here's what I'm choosing to believe. So now what I'm doing is I'm taking an existing neural pattern and I'm changing the pattern. I'm taking away its energetic force by adding new words that I'm choosing now versus the ones that were given to me or the ones that I felt when I was too young to actually change it on my own then. So now I'm paying attention to my self-talk. I'm paying attention to the inner critic. Okay, and there's a couple parts of the brain, like one I call Einstein, the other one I call Frankenstein. And so when Frankenstein comes up, says, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not worthy, I'm not this, or I'm not that, or I'm too this, or not enough of that, let me enter the dialogue and repattern a neural network. And let me, just like the baby, okay, needed repetition, spaced repetition, breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, and all that stuff, I'm going to do this for 100 days. Not 5 days, not 21 days, not 30, not 60, 100 days. And so the question is, why 100 days?
Yep. Why?
So patterns that have been reinforced for 20, 30, 40, 50 years, they're strong patterns. They're really strong patterns.
Yes.
So you don't change a 20 or 30-year-old pattern in 20 days by doing it 20 times or 30 times or 50 times when the other pattern has been recreated and reinforced thousands and thousands of times. You operate your whole day, your whole week, your whole month, your whole year based on the patterns that have been there, put there, and reinforced.
Yes.
So what if I said to you, train your brain for 100 days and replace the old disempowering or negative or destructive patterns with a new pattern, but deliberately.
Yes.
Deliberate. It's called deliberate conscious evolution. I'm deliberately going to choose to change myself. And if you committed to that, think about what would happen if we said, let's say you're out of shape. And we said, you know what? Let's go for a 1-minute walk every day. Not an hour, 1 minute.
Yep.
So the first, week we go, wow, this is easy. 1 minute walk. I can just walk around my house for a minute. Here's what I guarantee will happen. At the end of 1 week, so let's do 1.5 minutes. And let's do 2 minutes. And then let's do 3 minutes. And then at 100 days, you might be at, let's say you're at an hour 100 days later because you actually enjoy it. What do you think would happen to your beliefs, to your confidence, to your physique, to everything, if you were to exercise gently, lightly for 1 hour a day? Change your life.
Completely transform. Yeah.
So let's start with self-talk. Let's start with eliminating our
So
self-deprecating, discussions with ourselves. And if we want to change our limiting beliefs, why not start with asking, what empowering beliefs do I want to have? And then what are ways that I could actually create that pattern in my brain? So reading an affirmation and closing your eyes and actually feeling what that's like if it was true, and how would you behave if that was true, and what kind of comments would you get if that was true, activates not only the left prefrontal cortex of your brain, the occipital lobe part of your brain, the emotional part of your brain, and the motor cortex of your brain, but that is what it requires to rewire the brain with a new, more empowering pattern.
That's so powerful.
Yeah.
And for those of you listening right now, I hope you're writing all this down, because those are really powerful steps. So you're first identifying the limiting, disempowering belief, starting with that, not shaming yourself for it, not judging yourself for it, embracing it, acknowledging it, that it used to be your way of being.
Right.
And then, okay, where do I want to be? What do I want to be?
Starting right now.
Starting right now.
Yeah.
And then writing that out.
Right.
Yes. And repeating that to yourself every day. So you do the brush and prime
So
thing.
the brush and prime is I actually, have all my life's vision and purpose and my goals on a laminated sheet in my bathroom. And so while I'm brushing my teeth, I'm priming my brain with what I wanted to focus on, what beliefs I want, what goals I wanted to accomplish. All of your vision, your goals, your beliefs, your habits are in your head. They're in your brain. And so why not prime it with what it is you want instead of what it is you don't want?
Yes. What you focus on is what you get.
And the other thing that's really important is something that I talk a little bit about in the book Innercise, and it's called neural linking. And so what's neural linking? In the neuroscience field, there's a statement. It goes like this: the neurons that fire together wire together. So what does that mean? Well, it means that for, let's say 58 years of my life, or maybe not 58, but maybe, 56 years of my life, I've been brushing my teeth. So I have a very strong pattern of brushing my teeth. And I associate brushing my teeth with having white teeth, clean teeth, a nice smile,
fresh breath.
Right. So there you go. That you just recited a commercial, right? From
Probably.
And so now I'm taking what I want to achieve, a new belief, a new habit, a new vision, or new goals, and now I'm linking it and connecting the neurons that have been in my brain for 58 years. So when I'm brushing and priming my brain, and I have a positive association with brushing, now I'm linking everything that I want into a network that already exists.
I love that so much.
Right? And if we want to get a little bit further, now what if I had my favorite color there too? And what if I had my favorite number there too? What if I also had a picture of my favorite animal there that gives me these awesomely powerful emotions? The neurons that fire together wire together. So what if I associated my favorite number and color and power animal or gentle animal with new beliefs that I want to have? Do you think it would be possible to wire those new beliefs faster into the brain?
Yes.
Yes. That's what Innercise is all about, is
so
learning these little smart mental and emotional techniques to create confidence, certainty, empowerment, focus, awareness that leads to the behavior that gives you the results you want.
Oh my gosh. I love that so much. That's so powerful. And something else I had on here too. You were talking about, so I love that you're saying all these actionable steps too, but I know you were in, obviously, The Secret. It's all about the law of attraction. The law of attraction. And you're talking about the law of Goya.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Could you just talk about that real quick for our listeners? Because I think it's really important.
So before I tell you about the law of Goya, the law of attraction is not about writing down a goal or a vision that you have and sitting there like a monk in meditation hoping it's going to pop in from the sky and popped onto your lap.
Which is what a lot of people
misinterpreted in the movie, and the movie didn't explain. So the law of Goya says that in addition to having a vision and goals and the emotions required to achieve them, you have to get off your ass and do the right things in the right order at the right time. So a very simple example would be, let's say you want, let's say a guy is single and he's looking to meet a nice gal that could possibly end up in a long-term relationship. and he writes it down. He has this vision, and he's got his vision board. And let's say he walks into a friend's party or a restaurant or a bar, whatever it is, and he locks eyes with somebody who's beautiful. And she looks at him, and he sees the connection. He feels the connection, and so does she. And both of their hearts, skip a little beat. It's like, oh, wow, this is an attractive person that I connected with. And he walks up to her, and he gets down on one knee and goes, will you marry me? You go, what?
Huh?
It's the wrong order.
Yes.
It doesn't happen like that. So in addition to being clear about what you want and expecting it to happen and creating all of the peripheral stuff of what it is that you want, are you doing the right things to make that a reality? And on this physical earth that we live in, behavior counts. What you do matters. You can't just hope and pray your way into success or into achieving what it is that you want.
That's awesome. Law of attraction with action.
Well, the last 6 letters of the word attraction is action.
Oh, I love that.
Right?
Yes.
It's not be a Buddhist monk sitting there on your meditative, pillow. It's be in action. And here's what most people will discover, right, is the universe matches and mirrors what you do and what you think and what you feel.
Yes, so true.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's a combination. It's really a combination.
Yeah, I like to say we're like projectors. We're like projecting our movie all the time as we're walking around.
Well,
we're living our reality that we're creating.
May I just offer one suggestion?
Yes.
It's not we're like projecting. We are.
Yes.
Not like, we are.
It's so true.
We are. And everybody sees the world as they are, not as it is.
Yep. And okay, one of the last tools I want to talk about, because we are nearing the end, and I'm like, gosh, there's just so much goodness in here, and so much we haven't even talked about yet.
We'll have to do another
I know,
one.
I feel a sequel coming.
Yeah.
So I love when you identify the limiting belief, and then you acknowledge it, you reframe it, you change it. Another tool that I've heard you talk about before is when you're in a space of like high reaction, like something happens and it sets off everything, right?
Yeah.
You talk about it's 6 somethings.
Great. So in my book, Innercise, there are inner sizes to do. And I also give people the audios so that I could train them to do it with them as part of the book.
That's awesome.
So Innercise number 1 is called Take 6, Calm the Circuits.
There it is.
So there are 2 major circuits in the human brain, the parasympathetic nervous system or circuit and the sympathetic nervous system. So when we have a disempowering experience, a fear, a stress, anxiety, uncertainty, self-doubt, the sympathetic nervous system is kicked in, and basically the neurochemicals of cortisol, epinephrine, norepinephrine, adrenaline kick in, and we just don't like that feeling in a lot of cases. It also shuts down motivational centers in our brain. It shuts down our thinking and imagination center in our brain. And so we're in a heightened state of disempowerment and procrastination and fear.
And the fight or flight thing you were talking about earlier.
And the fight or flight kicks in. So one of the first things to do is whenever you feel, anxious, angry, stressed, uncertain, you take 6 deep breaths in through your nose and then out through your mouth, but blow out like you're blowing out through a straw. So in through your nose, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then pucker your lips a little. And focus on the airflow coming out of your mouth for 4 seconds, 5 seconds, 6 seconds. When you do that just 6 times, takes less than 1 minute to a max of 90 seconds, you actually deactivate the sympathetic circuitry, which causes us to have elevated heartbeat, elevated blood pressure, and it activates the parasympathetic. So in the stress,
so you're Frankenstein to your Einstein.
You got it. So when Frankenstein activates, right, you're in a stress mode. And to deactivate the stress mode, you do Take 6, Calm the Circuits, and that puts you in the calm and respond mode. So it's stress and react, calm and respond.
Got it. And so it's a pattern interrupt, essentially.
Of course, it's not only a pattern interrupt, it's taking control over your brain.
Yes.
I mean, here's something for people to think about if they want to go a little bit deeper. You're not your brain. You have a brain, you have a heart, you have lungs, you have a pancreas, you've got a liver, you've got organs, you've got 11 systems, you've got a body, you've got eyes, but you are not them.
Yes.
And so one of the things to do is when you become aware of your disempowering feelings or states, and then you say, well, I really don't want this. So you do Innercise number 1, and then you automatically go to Innercise number 2, and that's called Aya, A-I-A.
I wrote this down too. I want you to.
Good. Okay. So what's Aya? When we understand that from a brain perspective and from a human being perspective and having more control and being empowered, what gives us more control and more empowerment? And the answer is awareness.
Yes.
Awareness gives us choice. Choice gives us freedom. So I developed Innercise and the whole series of Innercises to give you that awareness and choice and freedom. So Innercise 1 is Take 6, calm the circuit, so that you're in the calm, and now you can respond instead of react.
Yes.
And then Aya, which is the second Innercise, is around awareness. So the question is awareness of what? And the answer is, if you can get calm first, and then be aware of your thoughts, feelings, sensations, emotions, and behaviors. Thoughts, feelings, sensations, emotions, and behaviors. And you must do this. No blame, no shame, no guilt, no justification. No blame, no shame, no guilt, no justification. Just pure awareness in a calm, responsive state. And so let's say you have a disempowering thought or emotion or feeling or sensation or behavior. You ask yourself, what's my intention? Well, my intention is to be confident. My intention is to actually take action because I want to achieve that goal.
Yes.
My intention is to meet him, to meet her, to do this, to start my business, to write my book, to invest in that. Whatever the intention, that's my intention. And then you ask yourself, what's one little action step I can take towards that? Not what's 5, what's 1. Why? Why 1? We talked about this earlier. You know, when we think of all the things that we need to do,
Then that puts us in.
it puts us back
right
into
into
Frankenstein.
overwhelm.
Frankenstein gets activated again,
Yes.
and then guess what we do? We're repeating that cycle. So what we want to do is interrupt the cycle, be more mindful, which just means be more aware, and then choose an intention. Do I still want to achieve that goal in health, wealth, relationships, career, business, finance, whatever it is? Yeah, I do. I really do. I really want to. In a calm state, I can do that. In a reactive state, I can't.
Yes.
So I want to be calm first, and then in that calm state, what's one thing that I can do?
Yes.
Now I've become more aware. Now I'm interrupting disempowering beliefs, thoughts, habits, emotions, behaviors. Now I'm gaining confidence and certainty by taking one step, because now I'm building a new neuromuscle of confidence.
Yes.
I'm reinforcing a muscle of awareness. I'm reinforcing my intention muscle. I'm reinforcing my behavioral muscle. Now who's in control?
Me.
And the more I learn that I can be in control, regardless of thoughts, emotions, feelings, behaviors, what's happening internal of me or external of me, now I'm empowered.
Yep.
And in an empowered state, I get shit done.
Absolutely. And something I really want listeners to get is, this is not, we talked about this earlier, this does not happen overnight. If you've been in a living in reaction with certain things that happen in your life and you want to change this, know that it's practice. It takes practice. It takes dedication, commitment, and staying on the path. Because I know for a lot of people, they'll try it and then they'll forget about it and not do it again. And then they'll start to feel disempowered.
Right. And that's because of ignorance, right? They don't have the right framework of what to do, why do it, how to do it properly, for how long, what happens when I am unmotivated to do it, what should I do then?
Yes.
Right? They don't have a framework. So in the absence of frameworks, in the absence of structure, there's chaos. And in chaos, we're in a reactive, repetitive state over and over and over again. What this does, what Innercise will do for them, is it'll help them become more aware, but then give them the structure based on the best neuroscience and neuropsychology evidence-based stuff so that they can change, and it's less uncomfortable when you know what you're doing.
Yes, and why you're doing it. I love
Correct.
that you said why.
Yeah.
And we must have a why, a purpose to why we're doing it. If we're not, then we don't have that there's no fire there. There's no reason.
Right. And there's also the other reason for the why. As much as people think, the why is logical, so we choose what we want logically and some emotion. Our why activates the limbic system of the brain, the emotional center of the brain. If it's a why, let's say for us or our family, then it's a good reason why. But what if it's a why that's even bigger than that, and it's to help mankind? Now the why becomes a little bit more spiritual. Now the why becomes even a little bit more instinctual, because we are all connected. And when I help me and I help you, I help we and us, and that is a much bigger reason than just me. And we will do more for others and for humanity if we know that our life has purpose and meaning. And so now we're activating different parts of our brain. So if we're activating logical part of our brain, instinctual part of our brain, intuitional part of our brain, emotional part of our brain, the motor cortex of our brain, the visual cortex of our brain, now we've got our whole brain involved in helping us achieve what we want and are destined to achieve.
That's so powerful. Thank you for that.
Fun stuff.
A why that makes you cry.
I
That
love it.
deep.
Why that makes you cry. If the deeper you can get this, and the deeper you can not be afraid to go there, and say, yes, I matter, and I can make a difference in my life and my friends or kids or husband or wife and family and community and mankind. That is what inspires you.
Yes.
Right?
Internal.
It's spirit within you is expressing itself that way versus doing things that expire you. When you minimize who you are, you're expiring your spirit.
Wow. I love that
Versus
so
doing
much.
things that inspire, that allow spirit to express itself more fully. Spirit is always for fuller expression and expansion of itself, right? But we get these disempowering, expiring beliefs and habits and perspective and perceptions from ignorant people that we grew up around, not because they were bad people. They just didn't know.
They didn't know any better.
They didn't know any better.
Yes.
And now we know better. And so if we know better, let's do better and feel better and be better and give better, and that's what it's all about.
I love it, John. You're so amazing. I love this whole conversation we had, and there's always so much more. I know that everyone listening has just, I'm sure, gotten so much value out of this episode. Where can they go to learn more, to find out more about you, to connect with you?
JohnAssaraf.com is one. MyNeuroGym.com is another one. If they want to find me on Instagram or on my Facebook fan page, it's @JohnAssaraf.
Easy.
Easy. I also have my book, my newest book. I've got a couple of New York Times best-selling books, but my newest book's called Innercise, The New Science to Unlock Your Brain's Hidden Power. And for anybody who buys the book right now, I've got 8 brain training audios that come with the book to help you retrain your brain on everything we've talked about, to put you more in control. So you can buy a book for $11, and I'll give you $200 of audios for it at IgniteMyBrain.com. IgniteMyBrain.com. So a whole bunch. There's not a lot of guys with the name Assaraf.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
So IgniteMyBrain.com, JohnAssaraf.com. And it's so much joy and fun to do this with you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on, John. I really appreciate you. And before we go, I'd love for you to end this episode sharing your why. What is John's why?
My biggest why is to make sure that I use my life in a way that I am proud of, that God is proud of, that has the biggest, most positive impact on humankind, the planet, and the universe, so that I know that I didn't waste my life.
So powerful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much,
You're
Sean.
welcome.
You're amazing.
So are you. Thanks for doing this. This is fun.